The Senate Finance Committee is now in session for voting, and we'll get started now.
The first item is one that's not on the list, and that's House Bill 1403. Budget and taxes primary on this bill, and finance is second. House Bill 1403 is identical to Senate Bill 636, which passed the Senate unanimously earlier this session. The bill requires the Department of Health to develop specific plans to reduce the wait lists for certain waiver programs by 50% beginning in fiscal 2024. There are no amendments.
Okay, can we get a motion?
Unanimous.
Okay, did you move it? All right, we got a motion. Do we have a second? All right, a motion and a second. And we're voting on 1403 House Bill. We have already passed the corresponding Senate Bill 636. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that looks like it's unanimous. Thank you.
The next item is a concurrence. It's also not on the list. This is House Bill 622. House Bill 622 deals with the renewable energy credits for offshore wind. The House has refused to concur in the Senate amendment, which was adopted on the floor. The amendment requires that the non-bypassable surcharge established under the bill for electric companies to recover the costs associated with the purchase of ORECs to be shown as a separate charge on each customer's bill. Of note, the House did not appoint conference committee members, so should the Senate refuse to recede and appoint conference committee members, the House may not respond.
All right, explain that's again what has happened.
The House did not appoint conference committee members in their message to the Senate. So should the Senate refuse to recede and appoint conference committee members from the Senate, then the House would have the option of not taking any additional action.
Isn't this Senator Feldman's bill?
It is, but it's in response to the Hershey amendment on the floor, so I'd like to hear from Steve.
You know, I've obviously been following it since that amendment. That amendment was a transparency type of amendment recommended by MEA. Everybody's been on board with that amendment, as far as the House sponsor, the advocates for the bill, PSC, MEA, the electric utilities want to see this as well too, because otherwise this just gets baked into the rates. They put out higher rates and people start to be concerned about the rates. So they were on board with that as well. I also understand that on Friday this was going to be concurred with, that the ECM was fine with everything, and something happened over the weekend, and I probably won't go into too much information.
Do you want to go to conference?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Can we pause for a moment? As committee counsel just noted, we may want to go to conference. Since they did not appoint conferees, that means the bill's dead, if I understand correctly, because we'll say, yeah, let's go to conference, and they're going to go, there's no conference committee. We're going to conference with we'll confer with ourselves.
Well, that's a little bit accurate. They could agree not to go to conference, but from what I understand from the bill sponsor, that they are willing to do that. At the very least, Senator, to address your concerns, the cross-filed bill is still alive over there. If something were to happen and they decide not to, they could move that, but I understand that.
Look,
Yeah.
it's up to the sponsor. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, well, first of all, just because they didn't appoint conferee doesn't mean they don't get another shot to appoint conferees if we send it back with, what's the message? We can appoint conferees, right?
All right, well, then we'll
Refuse
do
to
that.
recede. I just don't feel like we need to roll over, like, that just seems.
They really are pushing a lot
weak,
from
so
the chamber this year.
We're the Senate of Maryland. You can stand around. Yes, we are.
Well, anyway, I would say we vote not to recede and appoint conferees.
All right, so the motion is not to recede. Can we get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous, thank you.
Okay, on to the voting list. The first bill is Senate Bill 659. And so as amended, Senate Bill 659 is identical to House Bill 684, which passed the House unanimously and is next on the voting list.
will move favorably on this very good Senator Tennessee bill.
All right, can we get a second? Second. Okay, any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Then the next is House Bill 684, which is identical to the Senate bill that you just voted.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Next bill on the voting list is House Bill 632. This is a bill on which the Budget and Taxation Committee is primary and Finance is secondary. And so this bill establishes project planning requirements contingent on the receipt of federal funds for the Department of Transportation for the Red Line and the MARC rail extension to the Johns Hopkins Bayview Medical Center for fiscal 2024 through 2027. The governor must include in the annual budget bill an appropriation from the Transportation Trust Fund of at least $5 million contingent on the receipt of federal funds to be used to provide matching funds needed to conduct an environmental impact study under the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, for the two projects. Also for fiscal 2024 and each fiscal year thereafter, and contingent on the receipt of federal matching funds, the governor must include in the annual budget bill an appropriation from the Transportation Trust Fund of $200,000 to the Baltimore City Mayor's Office of Employment Development for Workforce Development and Small Minority and Women-Owned Business Development. The Budget and Taxation Committee adopted two amendments, legislative intent language. The first is that it's the intent of the General Assembly that the Department of Transportation coordinate any existing study of the Baltimore East-West corridor with the activities required under the bill in a manner that maximizes state resources and avoids unnecessary steps or duplication of efforts. The other legislative intent language states that it's the intent of the General Assembly that the activities required under the bill include extending the Red Line to the east from Johns Hopkins Bayview into Baltimore County.
And I will just say, from being in the area, it is very important. We really don't have appropriate legislation. I don't know if you guys remember when we went on our field trip to Sparrows Point a couple of summers ago. They told us they were hiring people for $80,000 a year stevedore jobs from Delaware because they could drive there quicker than people could get from West Baltimore, and they had gone through the route and really verified that the transportation was a problem.
Move favorable.
Okay. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that's unanimous, thank you.
Okay. Further down the list on House Bill 109, this is, as you can see on the yellow sheet, it's a cross-file to Senate Bill 242, which is Senator Hershey's bill on newborn screening. Oh. Really want to get out of here. First, the House made significant changes to the Senator Hershey's bill. Senator Hershey's bill left here with one amendment saying that they would they would only screen for core conditions as specified under federal guidelines. When the bill left here, all of a sudden the State Advisory Council on Heredity and Congenital Disorders got involved. They're an existing group that they're supposed to consult with when they do this type of screening procedure. So what the House did was specify that any type of screening for any new diseases that are added to the federal list would be adopted by the state with the advice of this advisory council. But then the House went even further And then they established a process for the equipment that could possibly be needed to do the screening, and set up a whole series of language that would bypass existing procurement processes and allow for emergency procurements. So you have a reprint in front of you with suggestions by Senator Hershey to simplify what the House has done a little bit. And basically, it left all the language intact about bringing in the State Advisory Council on Heredity and Congenital Disorders, but it strikes all the language regarding emergency procurements in case the equipment's not available to.
Because it does occur to me, Senator, that given additional screening of newborns that might come online in the future, we might even know what the equipment is at this point in
Well,
time.
and Madam Chair, that's a little bit what the issue was, that whether or not they could procure this equipment quick enough. What we did feel was that we stretched it out a little bit longer than 2 years, 2.5 years. We put the advisory group in place so that they could make a statement, and then we agreed to, with the bill sponsor in the House, to take out the procurement language. So this is a compromise of both pieces of legislation, what we passed and what they did, and I think it works well the way that it is now.
Okay, fantastic. You want to make a, you making a motion? We have. Okay, do we have a second? A second? Okay. All in favor, please raise your hands. All right, that's unanimous. Okay.
Okay, so the next bill on your list. The next bill on your list is deals with the stakeholder group. It's House Bill 662. It deals with the Advisory Group on Autism-Related Needs, Interagency Disabilities Board, and the State Coordinator of Autism Strategy. You heard this bill last week, and the department submitted a letter that said that there's a lot of, they disagree with a lot of the items in this bill, and they have their own bill over there. So the chair has decided to offer some amendments to this bill, which you have in a reprint in front of you. And some of the things that they questioned were providing a mandated appropriation without a specified amount for an assistant position. They also suggested was it really necessary to add this statewide coordinator to an oversight group that deals with disability policy in a state, and would elevate that person to cabinet level status, even though that's a coordinator position. And also the bill, as it came across the street, would have, under current administrative practice, this office was moved to the Governor of Community Initiatives. And the department bill actually moved it there statutorily into a different part of the code. This left it in the Human Services article, but then said that that the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives would provide support for the council.
So in other words, it wasn't in terms of where it would be in the statute, in the place that reflected the subject matter the way it left it.
Yes. It should, the Senate Bill 169, the departmental bill, moved it into the state government article under governors, boards, and commissions, the statutes that include all these governors, boards, and commissions. So
And that was the other.
that was the other bill, yes.
Yeah, the other bill has not moved or anything.
No, it has not,
And-
but-
And I don't see that it's going to.
Well, I've been in touch with
If we can fix
staff.
this one, it would really be good.
Yes, and that's what this bill does. So this bill strikes the bill that came across the street, and it puts in the governor's departmental bill, 169, with one addition. And that addition was, there was language in the bill that came across the street, in the House bill, that required geographic diversity in the appointment of the advisory council. So that was kept in this language. But everything else is the governor's, is the departmental bill, Senate Bill 169.
But did you include anything that the delegate had in this?
There were similarities in both bills added one senator and 2 delegates to the advisory council, so that's still in here. And that geographic diversity language regarding the appointment of the council is also still in the bill.
Anything else?
No.
Well, I just have to ask one question, too. Delegate Guyton's mother was rushed to the hospital today, this morning, so she's not here, but Corey is here. And can I just ask him if he's all right with that?
Yeah, Corey, what's your pleasure on her behalf?
She would agree that the geographic diversity, but she would not agree at all about the removing the coordinator from being chair of the advisory group that the current statute has them in, and she would press that there should be oversight and Senate approval for the position, because it's currently just a hired position, and not, I mean, they're coordinating the entire state autism strategy.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Senator Reedy?
Corey, can I have this question? I've been trying to puzzle through this bill and kind of what the priorities were. Was this a major I know it's a major priority for Delegate Guyton, and it's an issue she's very committed to. I mean, why is that Senate confirmation like a deal breaker? Because the department seems to give us some reasons why it could be cumbersome, because it'd be treated like any other of the stuff they oversee. So I don't know if you can answer that question.
Wish I could tell him either.
How diplomatic should I be? I mean, you have to have a qualified person be in the position. This week, I got an email from the current coordinator asking me for advice. Their coordinator for a state position.
That's a good answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. All right, Senator Klossmeyer.
We can try to work on the things you just said, but if not, there's no bill.
I think she would rather have she would rather have things stay the way they are now currently than move forward with the, especially removing them as the advisor, or the chair of the advisory committee.
They want to remove the person who's, what's her title, the coordinator of
State
all?
coordinator for autism strategy,
And they want to remove her from the advisory board.
being the chair of the advisory board.
Okay, well, since we
Okay.
aren't really having a hearing on the bill again, we'll have to make the decision. Thanks a lot for your input. Colleagues, I think it's a very important body, and we need the work that they need to do. Who will be the person to do it, and what their qualifications are to be is what there seems to be confusion over. And I think at this point in time, it's going to take this committee to try to sort it out. We don't want to lose the bill if we don't have to. We'd like to see this bill passed, because what's most important is that the work that the body is supposed to do ought to be done, and we need newborns to be appropriately screened and the right, yeah, all right, Senator Reed.
Can I just ask for clarity on what, with the amendments, what changes, you sort of spelled it out, I'm thick at it. What changes from what we're doing now to what this bill would do?
What you're doing now, well, currently, based on what the governor's bill did, or what?
What's the current practice and what does this bill change with the amendments?
With the amendments, the bill would add, again, like what the delegates bill would add, one representative from the Senate and two representatives from the House of Delegates. Instead of designating the chair of the state designate of the advisory group, it would allow the governor to appoint the chair of the advisory group.
And then make them subject to Senate confirmation or
No,
not
that-
with the amendments?
There's no, Senate confirmation was added by the delegate for
Got
that
it, okay, so
position.
that's not in these amendments?
That's not current practice, nor is that.
I think that's fair to probably take that out, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And there's also language here about, regarding if somebody, passes their term on a thing, that allows them to continue on there. And what would be different with this bill, again, is there's geographic diversity, which was not in current practice. That's not in the current appointment process. And the funding requirement for somebody for an administrative support of is not under existing law
Right.
or in the governor's bill. That would be under the delegate's bill.
The reason I've spent so much time on this, I know it just looks like another like commission bill, but I think for the committee, I mean, I have dozens and dozens of constituents that communicate with me on a somewhat frequent basis about needs for their children, and so, I mean, it's an important issue. But I'm just trying to puzzle out, Madam Chair, do we want to, it sounds like we're at an impasse a little bit. Do we want to hold the bill for a day, or?
I'm not sure, we might be a lot more busy. I think while we have this opportunity, we need to decide what you want to do with it.
So you want to go up or down now, is what you're thinking?
Yeah, because I think there's I think there's a little confusion. I think we should hold it. I think there's time. I think we should hold it for one day to try to, well, because I think people aren't quite sure, because we're getting a
Understand
little
what's
bit of
going on.
a bunch of mixed messages. I mean, unless somebody feels compelled to just vote it up or down or whatever.
I would be more than happy to get some of us together to see if we can work it out in the morning.
Okay, let's hold it till our next
Or when
voting
we're done
session.
here.
Okay,
We're almost finished now.
okay. Okay, all right, that's what we'll do.
Just let me know what you decide, and then we'll, I'll have the amendments ready, whatever you decide.
And we don't need him sitting here.
Focusing on, then I'm to understand that on page number 6 of 6, we would be focusing on taking out C at the bottom of the page. Is that a part of the amendment, one of the amendments?
But we're
taking-
not actually passing an amendment, we've just decided to hold the bill and let a work group here decide, given all that we've heard, what to do with it. And if you'd like to be on that work group, that's fine.
So, I don't know if anybody wants to, just after we're finished here today, sit down and discuss it. Anybody interested? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
I haven't finished my constitutional amendment work group, but we'll do
okay,
it. I'm putting that on my letterhead now.
okay. Okay, let's get back to order. And get the
Okay,
last-
the last bill on your list is Senate Bill 694. This is greatly amended by the House, greatly amended. The bill as it came in did, I'll quote Delegate Pete Rawlings from many years ago, did complicated things. And it started off it was a result of last year's debt collection. Past couple years, you passed very comprehensive legislation regarding free and reduced care from hospitals and also debt collection practices. So the bill would require that anybody who anybody who's identified as possibly being eligible for free or reduced care could apply through, with work as identified by the Health Services Cost Review Commission, the Comptroller, Department of Human Services. It would require that they look into these folks and then send letters out or notifications out to them, and then they would go to the hospitals. It required the hospitals to do some information, and finally they would get reimbursed. That's all gone out of the bill now, and instead the bill, as amended by the House, would require the Health Services Cost Review Commission, the Department of Human Services, the State Designated Exchange, the Comptroller's Office, and the Maryland Hospital Association develop a process to identify and reimburse patients who may have qualified for free care while receiving services from the hospital. That's what the bill does now. It requires them to look into this whole process that was specified in detail in the bill.
And do you think we need all of these different organizations to have to agree?
Well, they're looking into it. I don't know if they're the ones who are charged.
I'm just asking, would it be cumbersome to have that many different organizations?
I think what the House did was each one of these entities individually was identified as part of the process in the bill. So they took each one of those entities and added them to this group that would study this issue and report back.
Okay.
So it's a work group? Wait, whoa, I still have a lot of questions, because I was not in here to hear the bill hearing. I was in another committee that day, so I missed it altogether. So,
It's not a work group. It's these entities have to get together to develop a process that identifies the patients who paid for hospital services, provides reimbursement to the patients identified under this process, ensures that the patient's alternative address is used if there was issues that came up regarding domestic violence privacy. as part of this process. So all these items I delineated in the bill are designed to address some of the problems that came up when the bill was heard over in the House.
But didn't we just pass some legislation over the past couple years that tried to fix this?
2 years ago, you passed legislation that's altered the provisions of free and reduced care for hospitals. Last year, you passed legislation that altered the debt collection practice for hospitals. As part of that, there were studies that were required, and some information started coming out about folks who, during this process or prior to this process, may have been eligible for free or reduced care. And this is trying to set, the bill came in, it's trying to set up a mechanism for those folks to get reimbursed if they go through with the process and it was very detailed what the bill would do with this information. So this just says, these folks have to get together and study a process and get back to you on whether this process is feasible or not.
That, it's an odd thing because that's not, as I said, I didn't hear the bill that day. And both sides are telling me something different than you even just said. It was that they had a mechanism and they were fixing the mechanism and the comptroller's involved and it just very.
This would have set up the mechanism. This bill, as introduced, would have set up that mechanism. And
Do you think this bill is better or worse now than the way it was introduced?
I can't comment.
In terms of cumbersome.
I can't, the House heard the bill. I know Senator Hayes has a crossfile, but that never got out of rules. And so the House heard the bill. It went through several subcommittees, and this is their product. This is their solution to the bill as introduced.
But they can't pass it by themselves, so Senator Bottle.
Thank you,
And then
Madam Chair.
Senator-
So, I mean, this is a big amendment on the bill, and I certainly understand that we need to be paying back people who were overcharged, but by the time they develop this process, it looks like it's gonna,
The time would be up.
it'll be like 2023 or 2024, and they're gonna be paying people all the way back to 2017. So I wonder if there've been complaints. Are they just gonna pay back the people who complained, or the people that are in collection? Or are they gonna have to search for people all the way back to 2017 that may or may not have qualified? That's what I don't
Probably
get.
got to search for them. Well, that's a good rhetorical question. Let's hear what Senator Kramer wants to.
I don't have a rhetorical question, Madam Chair, but I did speak with the committee chair, the subcommittee chair in the House that worked on the bill today, and she indicated that there was a lot of work and effort that went into this, trying to bring all the sides together, which they like to do in HGO, and that this is the outcome, and that it's a representation of pulling all those groups together to find a solution that everybody would buy into.
Except that the Senate Finance Committee and the Senate are part of what has to be in, and we.
Asked to hold this, and if anybody wants to work with me on it, I'll put that on your resume too, on your letterhead. And,
Madam Chair?
yeah.
Are the members that would be willing to work with Senator Klossmeyer on it?
All right, can we see if there's an interest in voting the bill?
No, I'm holding it right now.
Yeah, but my question is, I know you're asking for a hold on this.
Yes.
But I'm not so sure you really understand what the bill is about.
She understands it very well.
That's part of the problem. Like I said, I wasn't even in the room when we had the hearing. And now it's changed anyway, so if I'll work on it and we can vote it on tomorrow.
Let me see the hands of any members that would be willing to work with Senator Klossmeyer on getting it. All right, so Hayes and.
The other one, I'll work with her on the other one.
Okay, all right, so Hayes and who else did I, and Battle and Klossmeyer. want to work on. And we will come back when we vote next time. We can look at this version that's come from the House versus what you guys come up with and decide what we want to do.
David, can you do a side-by-side?
Side by side,
Remember them? We used to have them every once in a while. Lots of times.
you want, for what? To work on when?
Well, what her study group will come up with side by side with. All right, Senator Feldman.
I do just want to make one quick point, because I sponsored the last 2 years, the debt collection and the assistance from 2 years. But there is a report, we're talking $60 million of people paying that, candidly may not have, really shouldn't have paid. So this is not a small issue, so I think
It's
we
a
should
big
be
issue.
deliberate about it, but I just want to, I think we shouldn't understate, it's kind of a significant issue that we probably should find a way to pass something here.
I think you're right. My
This is a
concern
mechanism
is
to get
that
people the money
what the
back that they
House
shouldn't
has
have
come
paid.
up with has so many people,
understand.
whole bodies involved, that it might be forever with them getting very little.
I might add that the people that have overpaid are the people who can least afford it. That's why this bill, it seems so important, because those little people who have, that those deep pockets have taken their money, need to pay them back. That's what this bill is all
And then we
about.
also have a charity entity that's supposed to help with hospital debt, and we don't know how the hospitals are handling that.
It's actually 60 million a year, not total 60 million. It's 60 million.
Okay, all right, so then could you try to have a report back for us, or be ready to tell us what you, all right, when we meet next, okay, all right. Is there anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn? All right, thanks very much.